Hi, my name is Aurora Vane. I'm 32 years old, and I live in the city. It was 11:45 p.m. My office was dark. The only light in the room came from the glow of my phone screen. A notification popped up. It was a forwarded bill. I looked at the number. It was $15,000 from the Zenith Lounge. A second later, a message arrived from my mother, Sandra. Her words were sharp and direct. "Put this on your card. It's the least you can do after ruining the mood with your cheap dress." Underneath her cruel text, my sister Tiffany added a heart reaction. I sat there in the silence. I stared at the screen. My hand didn't shake. I didn't cry. I didn't type back a furious reply. In that moment, the truth hit me hard. They didn't see me as a daughter. They didn't see me as a sister. To them, I was just a permanent ATM. They thought my silence meant I was weak. They thought I would just pay it, like I always did. But they were wrong. Silence isn't acceptance. Silence is the deep breath you take before you strike back. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Aurora Vane. I'm 32 years old. I put the phone down on my desk. The screen went black, but the message from my mother still burned in my mind. "Put this on your card." It wasn't a request. It was an order. It was the same order I had heard for 10 years. I sat back in my chair and looked around my home office. It was quiet. My husband, Caleb, was asleep in the other room. He didn't know about the bill yet. If he knew, he would be furious. He hated how they treated me. But for a long time, I didn't let him interfere. I told myself it was my duty. I told myself that family helps family. But tonight, sitting in the dark, I realized it wasn't help. It was a robbery, and it had been happening for a very long time. I closed my eyes and let the memories wash over me. I needed to remember why I was here. I needed to remember how it started. It started with small things. When I was 22, my father lost his job. He said it was a layoff. Later, I found out he had been fired for gambling on company time. But back then, I didn't know. I just knew my dad was sad. I was working 2 jobs. I was a waitress in the morning and a receptionist at night. I had saved $5,000. It was everything I had. It was for my own apartment. My mother came to me crying. She said they were going to lose the house. She said, "Aurora, you are the responsible one. You can save us." So I gave them the money. I felt proud. I felt like a good daughter. My father hugged me. He said, "You are a lifesaver, kid." I didn't know that lifesaver actually meant wallet. That was the beginning. Over the years, the requests got bigger. But the gratitude got smaller. 3 years ago, my sister Tiffany decided she wanted to be an influencer. She didn't want to work. She wanted to take photos of coffee and clothes. She told my parents she needed a condo in the city to build her brand. My parents couldn't afford it, so they looked at me. By then, they thought I was working a steady, boring job at the city library. They thought I made a decent salary, enough to have good credit. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know I wasn't just a librarian. They didn't know I had quit the library years ago. They didn't know about the hotels. I had always been quiet. I liked to observe. While Tiffany was partying and my dad was gambling, I was reading. I read about real estate. I read about business. When I was 24, I took a massive risk. I used my credit to buy a small, rundown motel on the edge of town. I fixed it up myself. I painted the walls. I scrubbed the floors. I turned it into something trendy and clean. I sold it for a profit. Then I bought another one. And another. Now I owned a boutique hotel empire. I had properties in New York, London, and Tokyo. I had a team of 300 employees. I was rich, not just comfortable, wealthy. But I never told them. I knew my family. I knew them better than they knew themselves. If I told them I was a CEO, if I told them I had millions in the bank, they would eat me alive. They wouldn't ask for help anymore. They would demand it. They would feel entitled to every cent I earned. So I created a character. I played the role of Aurora the librarian. I wore simple clothes around them. I drove a 5-year-old sedan when I visited their house. I never wore expensive jewelry. I kept my mouth shut about my business trips. When I went to check on my hotel in Paris, I told them I was going to a library conference in Ohio. They believed it because they wanted to believe it. They saw me as boring. They saw me as plain. To them, I was just the safety net. When Tiffany wanted that condo, my mother sat me down. "Aurora," she said, pouring me a cup of tea. "Your sister has a dream. You know how hard it is for her. She's sensitive. She needs a safe place. You have good credit. You don't have children yet. You can co-sign the lease. You can help with the rent until she gets famous. Mom, I can't afford 2 rents, I had said. It was a lie, but a necessary one. You can work extra shifts, my father said, not even looking up from the TV. That's what family does, we sacrifice. We sacrifice, but they never sacrificed. I was the only one bleeding. I agreed. I always agreed. I paid for the condo. I paid for Tiffany's car lease because a star can't take the bus. I paid off my father's gambling debts 3 more times. I paid for my mother's stress relief vacations to spas in Arizona. I paid for everything. And what did I get? I got ignored. At Christmas, Tiffany would get piles of gifts. Designer bags, shoes, jewelry. My parents would spend the money I gave them to buy gifts for her. For me, I would get a pair of socks or a gift card to a grocery store. You're practical, Aurora, my mom would say. You don't need fancy things. You wouldn't know what to do with them. They invited me to dinners not because they wanted my company, but because they needed someone to handle the check when the waiter came. They would order steak and lobster. They would order bottles of wine that cost more than my first car. They would laugh and tell stories. They would talk over me. If I tried to speak, my father would wave his hand. Quiet, Aurora. Tiffany is telling us about her followers. I was a ghost at the table, a ghost with a credit card. Tonight was the worst one yet. The Zenith Lounge was one of the most expensive places in the city. Ironically, I knew the owner. We had done business together. I knew the menu prices. My mother had called me yesterday. We are having a celebration dinner for Tiffany. She hit 10,000 followers. That's great, I said. What time should I be there? There was a pause. Oh, honey, my mom said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. It's a very visual dinner. Tiffany is bringing some influencer friends. It's going to be very high fashion. You know how you dress, you're a bit drab. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable. She wasn't protecting my feelings. She was ashamed of me. She didn't want the librarian ruining Tiffany's aesthetic. So I'm not invited, I asked. It's better this way, she said. But we might order a little extra. Can I use the card ending in 4590, just in case? I should have said no, I should have screamed. But old habits die hard, I said yes. And now, here I was, midnight, staring at a bill for $15,000. They had ordered everything. The Wagyu beef, the vintage champagne, desserts plated with gold leaf. They had feasted like royalty. They had toasted to Tiffany's success. They had probably laughed about me. Poor Aurora, she's probably at home reading a book. She's so boring, at least she's useful. Useful, that was the only word that mattered to them. I looked at the text again. Ruining the mood with your cheap dress. She was talking about the dress I wore last Thanksgiving, a simple navy dress. It cost $300, which wasn't cheap, but it wasn't flashy. Tiffany had worn a neon pink gown with feathers. They told me I looked like a funeral director. They made me sit in the kitchen to eat because there wasn't enough room at the main table. I ate my turkey next to the trash can. And then I paid for the groceries. I felt a coldness spreading through my chest. It wasn't anger. Anger is hot. Anger is messy. This was something different. This was ice. This was the feeling of a bridge finally collapsing after carrying too much weight for too long. I looked at the photo of Caleb on my desk. He had told me a month ago, Aurora, they are eating you alive. You are a powerful woman. You run a massive company. You negotiate with sharks. Why do you let these goldfish bite you? Because they are family, I had whispered. Family doesn't eat their own young, he replied. He was right. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my mother, father, and sister were probably still at the lounge, or maybe heading to a club. They were drunk on champagne. They were high on the feeling of being rich without working. They thought the money was magic. They thought it came from a bottomless pit. They thought I was stupid. I touched the cold glass of the window. I wasn't stupid. I was loyal. But loyalty has an expiration date. And tonight, at 11:45 p.m., it had just expired. I turned back to my desk. I sat down. I wasn't the sad daughter anymore. I wasn't the victim wiping tears from her face. I was the CEO. And it was time to conduct a business review. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dark room. I didn't go to social media. I didn't go to my email. I went straight to my secure financial dashboard. I had a specific folder labeled Family Debt Consolidation. I created this folder 5 years ago. It was supposed to be a way to track what I gave them just for my own taxes. But over time, it became a record of their greed. I typed in my password. The spreadsheet loaded. I stared at the numbers. Row 1, parents' mortgage $3,200/month. Row 2, Tiffany's condo lease $4,500/month. Row 3, dad's Ford Raptor truck payment $950/month. Row 4, Tiffany's BMW lease $800/month. Row 5, mom's emergency credit card, supposed to be for groceries, balance $12,400. Row 6, dad's business loan gambling debt balance $45,000. The list went on: health insurance, car insurance, cell phone plans, Netflix, gym memberships they never used. Even the dog food for Tiffany's poodle was on my auto-pay. I scrolled down. The total monthly output was staggering. I was spending over $25,000 a month just to keep them afloat. That was $300,000 a year. I could have built a school with that money. I could have invested in a new startup. I could have burned it in a fireplace, and it would have been more useful than this. I looked at the $15,000 bill notification on my phone one more time. Put this on your card. My finger hovered over the trackpad. For years, I was afraid to stop paying. I was afraid they would hate me. I was afraid they would end up on the street and it would be my fault. I was afraid of the guilt. But tonight, the guilt was gone. It was replaced by clarity. It was just math. Equation A, I pay everything. Result: they abuse me, mock me, and demand more. Equation B, I pay nothing. Result: they face the consequences of their own actions. I chose equation B. I started with the credit cards. I logged into the American Express portal. I found the card ending in 4590. The family card. I clicked Manage Card. I clicked Freeze Card. Then, just to be sure, I clicked Report Lost/Stolen. That would kill the number immediately. The waiter at the Zenith Lounge would run the card again, and it would decline hard. Next, the housing. Tiffany's condo was in my name, but she was the tenant. It was a month-to-month lease because I knew she was unstable. I logged into the property management portal. Notice to vacate. Reason: owner requires possession. Effective date: 30 days. Submit. Next, my parents' house. I didn't own their house, but I paid the mortgage directly from my bank account. I went to the bank transfer tab. Recurring payment, parent mortgage. Action: cancel. Are you sure? Yes. Next, the cars. Both leases were in my name. I opened the leasing agency app. Schedule lease return. Date: tomorrow. Location: pickup requested. I worked fast. My fingers flew across the keyboard. It was rhythmic. It was like playing a piano, but instead of music, I was making silence. I canceled the cell phone plan. I canceled the insurance. I canceled the streaming services. I canceled the gym memberships. It took me exactly 18 minutes. 18 minutes to dismantle the entire fake life they had built on my back. I sat back and watched the screen. The status bars all turned from active to canceled or pending termination. It was done. The money tap was dry. The well was empty. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. I expected to feel sad. I expected to feel scared. But I didn't. I felt light. I looked at the clock. 12:15 a.m. at the restaurant. They were probably ordering another bottle of wine. Maybe Tiffany was ordering dessert. Maybe my dad was bragging to the waiter about his successful investments. In a few minutes, the waiter would come back with a little black folder. He would lean down discreetly. He would say, "I'm sorry, sir. The card was declined." My dad would laugh. "Try it again, it's a black card." The waiter would try it again. "I'm sorry, it says the account has been closed." I imagined the look on their faces, the confusion, then the panic. Then the realization that the bill was $15,000 and they didn't have $15 between them. They would have to call me. I looked at my phone. I went to settings. Do not disturb. Allow calls from Caleb only. I picked up the phone and walked out of the office. I went into the bedroom. Caleb was sleeping soundly. He looked peaceful. I crawled into bed beside him. I pulled the blanket up to my chin. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't racing with worry about my family. I wasn't wondering if they had enough. I wasn't wondering if they were happy. I knew they weren't happy right now. And for the first time, I was okay with that. I closed my eyes. Silence, beautiful silence. I woke up at 7 o'clock a.m. naturally. The sun was streaming through the curtains. It was a beautiful Tuesday morning. Usually, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. Usually, I checked my phone immediately to see what crisis my mother had invented during the night. Today, I stretched. I felt rested. Then I looked at my phone screen. 147 missed calls. 82 text messages. 25 voicemails. The notifications were a solid block of red on my screen. It looked like a digital crime scene. Most were from Mom, a lot from Tiffany, a few from Dad. I didn't unlock the phone yet. I just read the previews on the lock screen. Mom 12:30 am, Aurora, pick up. Mom 12:35 am, the card isn't working, fix it now. Mom 12:45 am, this is humiliating. Everyone is looking at us. Call me. Dad 1 o'clock am, you ungrateful brat, answer the phone. Tiffany 1:15 am, they are threatening to call the police. Aurora, Mom 2 o'clock am, we had to leave Dad's watch as collateral. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. You are dead to me. Tiffany 3 o'clock am, my Netflix isn't working. Did you change the password? Mom 6 o'clock am, I called the bank. They said you canceled the payments. Is this a joke? I walked into the kitchen and started the coffee maker. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Caleb walked in, rubbing his eyes. Phone blowing up, he asked, spotting the device on the counter. Exploding, I said calmly. Did you do it? He asked. He knew I had been close to the edge. I did, I said. I cut them off, everything. Caleb stopped. He looked at me, really looked at me. Then he smiled, a slow, proud smile. Good, we sat down at the breakfast table. I finally unlocked the phone. I decided to listen to one voicemail, just one. I chose the one from my father. I put it on speaker. His voice was slurred. He was obviously drunk. The background noise was the sound of a busy street, probably outside the restaurant where they had been kicked out. Aurora, you listen to me. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but it ends now. You think you're smart, you're nothing. You're a parasite. You and that husband of yours, you're poisoning my daughter, you owe us. We raised you. You fix this by morning or I'm coming over there and… The message cut off. Caleb laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. A parasite. That's rich coming from the man who hasn't paid for his own lunch since 2015. They're scared, I said. They aren't angry about the money. They're angry because the control is gone. What are you going to do? Caleb asked. I'm going to work, I said. And you should check Instagram. Caleb opened his phone and went to Tiffany's profile. She had posted a story 3 hours ago. It was a black screen with white text. Some people just can't handle your shine. Jealousy is a disease, betrayed by my own blood. Don't worry about me, my real fans know the truth. Number fake family, number toxic, number survivor, she's playing the victim, Caleb said. Of course she is, I replied. It's the only role she knows how to play. Suddenly my phone rang again, it was my mother. Answer it, Caleb said. Let them hear your voice. I swiped green. Hello, you. My mother's scream was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Do you have any idea what you did to us? We were held hostage at that restaurant. They treated us like criminals. You aren't criminals, I said calmly. You're just customers who couldn't pay their bill. Because you canceled the card, she shrieked. Why did you do that? Are you insane? I'm not insane, Mother, I'm finished. Finished? What does that mean? It means the Bank of Aurora is closed, permanently. There was a silence on the line, shock. Then the tone changed. It went from anger to a manipulative whimper. Aurora, honey, she said, her voice trembling. I know you're stressed. I know we ask for a lot, but you can't just… Stop. Think about your sister. She has a reputation. Think about your father. His heart isn't good. His heart is fine, I said. His wallet is the problem. We will lose the house, she cried. They will take the cars. How will I get to the grocery store? You can take the bus, I said. Or you can walk. It's good exercise. I am your mother, she screamed, the mask falling off again. You owe me, I gave you life. And I gave you a lifestyle, I said. For 10 years, now you're on your own. You can't do this, she hissed. You're just a librarian, you make pennies. We know you have savings, you're hoarding it, you're selfish. I smiled. You're right, Mom, I am just a librarian. So, how could a librarian afford to pay for your $15,000 dinner? Have you ever asked yourself that? She paused. What? If I'm just a librarian, how have I been paying for Tiffany's condo? How have I been paying for Dad's truck? Where did you think the money was coming from? I don't know, she stammered. You saved, you're cheap. I'm not cheap, I said, and I'm not a librarian, but you're going to find out who I really am very soon. What are you talking about? Come to 400 Financial District Boulevard. Top floor, noon, bring Dad and Tiffany. Why? Because if you don't, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, I will have the leasing agents at your door by 1:00 p.m. with eviction notices. I hung up. My hand was trembling slightly, but not from fear, it was adrenaline. Caleb looked at me with admiration. Top floor, you're bringing them to the headquarters. It's time they met the CEO, I said. I stood up and walked to my closet. I pushed past the gray cardigans and the sensible slacks I usually wore to family events. I reached into the back where I kept my work clothes. I pulled out a tailored white suit. It was sharp. It was expensive. It was powerful. I put it on. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see the quiet girl who sat by the trash can at Thanksgiving. I saw a woman who built an empire from nothing. "Let's go," I said. I drove my own car to work. Not the beat-up sedan I used for family visits, but my matte black SUV with the tinted windows. The drive to the financial district was short. I parked in my reserved spot, reserved for CEO. I took the private elevator to the 40th floor. The doors slid open, and the hum of my office greeted me. It was a sound I loved. Phones ringing softly, fingers typing on keyboards, people moving with purpose. "Good morning, Miss Vane," the receptionist said, nodding respectfully. "Good morning, Sarah. I have guests arriving at noon. Send them directly to conference room A." "Yes, ma'am." I walked down the glass hallway. My name was on the wall in silver letters. Aurora Vane, founder and CEO. I walked into my office. It was a corner suite with a panoramic view of the city. It was sleek, modern, and intimidating. Alina was already there waiting for me. Alina was my attorney. She was also my best friend. She was sharp as a razor and twice as dangerous. She handled my hostile takeovers. She handled my contracts. She knew everything about my family, and she hated them more than I did. She was sitting at the conference table, surrounded by stacks of files. "Morning, boss," Alina said, not looking up from a document. I saw the alerts. "You froze the cards." "I did." "About time," she said. She looked up and grinned. "I have everything ready. The debt acceleration notices, the foreclosure warnings, the asset seizure drafts. It's all here." "Good. They're going to freak out when they see this place," Alina said. "They still think you stamp books for a living." "They see what they want to see," I said. I sat down at the head of the table. "They think I'm small because it makes them feel big." "Well," Alina said, tapping a thick file folder, "wait until they see the math. I ran the numbers, Aurora. It's worse than we thought." "How much?" Alina slid a paper across the table. I looked at the number. $5,200,000. $5.2 million. That was the total amount I had spent on them in the last 10 years, plus interest. I had always treated the money I gave them as loans in my internal books. I never made them sign formal contracts for the small stuff, but for the big things, the condo, the cars, the house repairs, I had made them sign acknowledgments of debt. They always signed without reading. They just wanted the check. "It's a lot," I whispered. "It's a fortune," Alina said. "And legally, it's all callable. You have the right to demand repayment immediately." "They don't have it," I said. "I know," Alina replied. "That's the point," the intercom buzzed. "Miss Vane," Sarah's voice came through. "Your guests are here. They seem very upset." "Send them in," I said. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The mask was coming off. The heavy glass doors swung open. My parents and Tiffany stormed in. They looked frantic. My mother was wearing sunglasses, probably to hide swollen eyes. My father looked red-faced and sweaty. Tiffany was holding her phone, recording a video. "Guys, I'm at my sister's office." Tiffany was whispering to her phone. "We're going to get to the bottom of this abuse." They stopped dead when they saw the room. They looked at the floor-to-ceiling windows. They looked at the expensive art on the walls. They looked at the massive mahogany table. Then they looked at me. I was sitting at the head of the table in my white suit. I wasn't hunched over. I wasn't smiling apologetically. I was staring them down. "Put the phone away, Tiffany," I said. My voice was calm, but it filled the room. Tiffany lowered her phone slowly. "What? What is this place?" "This," I said, spreading my arms, "is my library." "You work here?" my dad asked, looking confused. "You're a secretary here," Alina laughed. A sharp, cruel sound. "She doesn't work here, Mr. Vane. She owns here." "Owns?" My mother stepped forward. She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes darted around the room. "What do you mean, this is a corporate headquarters?" "Yes," I said. "This is Vane Hospitality Group. I am the CEO." "You," Tiffany scoffed. "You can't even match your shoes to your purse. You run a company." "I run 30 hotels across 3 continents," I said. "I employ 300 people. And for the last 10 years, I have been the only reason you have a roof over your heads." "Liar," my dad spat. "You work at the public library, you told us." "I lied," I said, "because I knew if you knew the truth, you would bleed me dry. And guess what? You did it anyway." "So you have money," my mother said, her eyes suddenly lit up. The fear vanished, replaced by greed. You have real money, millions. Yes, I said. Then what is the problem? She threw her hands up, laughing hysterically. Why the drama? Why cancel the cards? If you're rich, just pay the bill. Oh, Aurora, you had us so scared. I thought you were broke. She walked toward me, her arms open for a hug. My clever girl, you're a CEO, this is amazing. Tiffany, get a picture of me with your sister. We need to post this. She didn't get it. She didn't understand. She thought this was a jackpot. Sit down, I said. I didn't move. My mother stopped. What? Sit down, she sat. This isn't a celebration, I said. This is a foreclosure. I nodded to Alina. Alina stood up and opened the thick file. She began to pass out documents. One stack for my dad, one for my mom, one for Tiffany. What is this? Tiffany asked, looking at the papers. These are your bills, I said. Past due. We don't owe you anything, my dad said. We're family. Legally, Alina said, you are debtors, and Aurora is the creditor. You signed these, I said, pointing to the papers. Every time I paid off a debt for you, every time I bought a car, every time I paid for a business loan, I made you sign a receipt. You didn't read them, but the fine print says that these are loans, payable on demand. I am demanding, I said. You can't be serious, my mom whispered. I am very serious. You owe me $5.2 million. The room went silent. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioning. If you can't pay, I said, I will take your assets, the house, the cars, the condo. The jewelry. You wouldn't, my dad said. You're our daughter. I was your daughter yesterday, I said. And you left me with a $15,000 bill and a text message calling me cheap. Today I'm just the bank. And the bank is collecting. My dad's face turned purple. He stood up and slammed his fist on the table. I will not let you disrespect me. I am your father. I will sue you. Alina smiled. I was hoping you would say that. She pulled out one final document. It was a single sheet of paper. It was a copy of a mortgage application. Mr. Vane, Alina said, do you recognize this? My father looked at the paper. All the color drained from his face. He sat back down heavily. What is that? My mother asked. This, I said, is why Dad isn't going to sue anyone. I looked at my father. He was shaking. Tell them, Dad, I said. Or should I? My father was sweating. He wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, trying to look indignant but failing. He looked trapped. The silence in the conference room was heavy. It felt like the air had been sucked out. My mother was staring at the paper Alina had put in front of her. Tiffany was scrolling through her phone, probably checking if she could delete her earlier post about me, but her thumb was shaking. $5.2 million, I repeated slowly. That is the number. This is ridiculous, my mother finally said. She pushed the paper away as if it were contaminated. You can't just invent a number. We are family. We share things. We help each other. I helped you, I corrected her. You took. Alina cleared her throat. She loved this part. She adjusted her glasses and tapped the spreadsheet. Mrs. Vane, let's look at the breakdown. It's quite impressive. Alina began to read. Her voice was calm, professional, and absolutely lethal. Item 402, Tiffany's brand launch party. Cost $45,000. Paid by Aurora Vane. Notes. Tiffany promised to pay back from sponsorships that never materialized. Tiffany scoffed. That was an investment. You can't charge me for that. That was for my career. Did you make a profit? I asked. Tiffany looked down. Exposure takes time. Item 510, Alina continued, ignoring her. Mr. Vane's business ventures. A series of loans totaling $350,000 over 4 years. Notes. Gambling debts disguised as startup capital. My father slammed his hand on the table again, but it was weaker this time. That is private business. You have no right. I have every right, I said. Because I paid the bookies, Dad. I paid them so they wouldn't break your legs. Do you remember that night? Do you remember crying in my kitchen, begging me for help? He looked away. He remembered. Item 600, Alina said. Lifestyle maintenance. This includes the mortgage payments on the house you live in, the leases on the cars you drive, the vacations to Cabo, the wardrobe updates, the private medical insurance. Total. $1.8 million over 10 years. My mother's face went pale. You counted the groceries. I counted everything, I said. Every latte, every tank of gas. Every time you swiped that card, you were digging a deeper hole. But you gave it to us, my mother cried. Tears started to well up in her eyes, her weapon of choice. You said, here, Mom, take the card. You didn't say this is a loan. Look at the documents in front of you, I said. They looked down. Every time I gave you a large sum, I explained, I asked you to sign a little paper. I told you it was for tax purposes. I told you it was just for my accountant. You never read them, you just signed so you could get the money fast. Those papers, Elena said, are legally binding promissory notes. They state clearly that the funds are a loan, payable on demand, and today is the day of demand. We can't pay this, my dad whispered. The fight was leaving him. We don't have $5 million. We don't have $5,000. I know, I said. Then what do you want? Tiffany snapped. You want to put us in jail, you want to ruin us, why are you being so mean? Mean, I laughed. It was a cold, sharp sound. Tiffany, last night you watched Mom send me a text calling me cheap while you ate a $200 steak I paid for. You put a heart reaction on it. Was that mean? She didn't answer. You have 30 days, I said. According to the debt acceleration notice Elena just handed you, you have 30 days to pay the full balance of $5.2 million. And if we don't? My mother asked, her voice trembling. If you don't, Elena said, we begin asset seizure. We take the house. We take the cars. We take the contents of the safe. We garnish any future wages. We take everything until the debt is settled. You would make us homeless, my mother gasped. Your own parents? I'm not making you homeless, I said. You made yourselves homeless. You spent 10 years living like kings on a pauper's budget. You ate the future. Now the bill is due. My mother started to weep. Real, ugly tears. I gave birth to a monster, a cold-hearted monster. You didn't give birth to a monster, I said softly. You gave birth to a bank, and the bank is closed. My father was still staring at that single sheet of paper Elena had set aside. The one I said was the reason he wouldn't sue. He hadn't touched it yet, he was afraid of it. Dad, I said, aren't you going to ask about the other paper? He looked up. His eyes were terrified. What other paper? My mother asked, wiping her eyes. The crime, I said. The room was silent again. The air conditioner hummed. My father reached out a shaking hand and pulled the single sheet of paper toward him. He knew what it was. He had probably hoped I would never find it. What is it, Frank? My mother asked, looking at him. What did you do? My father didn't speak. He couldn't. Elena, I said, read it. Elena picked up her copy. This is a mortgage application for a second lien on the family home, dated 3 years ago. Amount $250,000. We needed that money, my mother said quickly. For the renovations, for the new kitchen. You know that? Yes, I said. I know you got the money, but look at the signature line, Mom. My mother leaned in. She squinted. It says, Aurora Vane. Correct, I said, but I didn't sign it. My mother looked confused. But, it's your name, you have to sign for the house, the deed is in your name. Exactly, I said. I own the house, so for you to take out a second mortgage, I would have to agree to it, I would have to be there. I would have to sign in front of a notary. I looked at my father. I wasn't there, was I, Dad? He shook his head, a tiny, microscopic movement. Who signed my name, Dad? I asked. He looked down at his lap. I did? What? Tiffany asked, looking up from her phone. Dad forged it. It's called fraud, Elena stated. Bank fraud, identity theft, forgery, in this state for an amount over $100,000. That is a Class B felony. It carries a mandatory prison sentence of 5 to 10 years. My mother gasped. She covered her mouth with her hand. She looked at my father with horror. Not because he stole from me, but because he could go to jail. Frank, she hissed, how could you be so stupid? I had to, he exploded. He stood up, knocking his chair back. We needed the money. Tiffany needed the down payment for her brand. You wanted the kitchen. The bills were piling up. Aurora was. She was asking questions. I couldn't ask her for another loan without her looking at the books. So you stole my identity, I said calmly. You walked into a bank, you brought a fake ID. I assume you used an old one of mine you found in the house, and you forged my signature. You put me on the hook for $250,000. I was going to pay it back, he shouted. I had a system, I was going to win it back. Gambling, I said. You gambled with my freedom. If you had defaulted on that loan, the bank would have come after me. They would have ruined my credit. They could have sued me. But they didn't, he pleaded. I paid the interest. With whose money? I asked. With the money I gave you for the groceries. He fell silent. So here is the situation, I said. I leaned forward. You owe me $5.2 million in civil debt. That's just money. We can fight about that in civil court. But this, I pointed to the forgery. This is criminal. This is FBI territory. Aurora, please, my mother begged. She reached across the table to grab my hand. I pulled it away. He's your father, you can't send him to prison. He's an old man, he won't survive. He should have thought about that before he committed a felony against his own daughter, I said. What do you want? My father asked. His voice was broken, he sounded old. You want blood, you want to see me in handcuffs. I want the truth, I said, and I want justice. We can't pay the money, he said. We just can't. I have a proposal, I said. They all looked up. Hope, desperate, pathetic hope flashed in their eyes. I won't call the police, I said. Not today. My mother let out a sob of relief. But, I continued, raising a finger. I need something from you, I need you to admit who I am. Who you are? Tiffany asked. You're Aurora. No, I said. To you, I've always been Aurora the ATM. Aurora the doormat. Aurora the librarian. I want you to see me, I want the world to see you. What do we have to do? My dad asked warily. One last dinner, I said. Tonight at the Zenith Lounge. We can't go back there, my mother cried. They kicked us out, it's humiliating. I'll handle the reservation, I said. I want you to be there at 8 p.m. sharp. If you are there, and if you do exactly what I say, I will consider not handing this forgery file to the district attorney. That's it? Tiffany asked. Just dinner. Just dinner, I lied. It wasn't just dinner, it was a trap, but they were too desperate to see it. We'll be there, my dad said. We'll be there, Aurora, thank you. Thank you for being reasonable. Reasonable. That word made me want to scream. There was nothing reasonable about what they had done to me for 10 years. Get out of my office, I said. They scrambled to leave. They grabbed the papers, looking like frightened rats. My mother tried to smile at me as she left, a wobbly, fake smile. See you tonight, honey. When the door closed, I slumped back in my chair. I felt exhausted. Elena looked at me. You know they're going to think they won, right? They think they can talk you out of it over dinner. I know, I said. That's why tonight isn't about talking. Is everything ready for the restaurant? Elena asked. Yes, I said. Caleb is handling the final details. You're ruthless, Elena said, smiling. I'm so proud. I learned from the best, I said. My family taught me exactly how to hurt people. At 8 p.m., I walked into the Zenith Lounge. This time, I wasn't wearing the cheap navy dress. I was wearing a black silk gown that cost more than my father's car. I wore diamond earrings that caught the low light of the chandeliers. I saw them at the table, the best table in the house, the center table. I had reserved it specifically. I wanted an audience. They were already seated. They looked nervous. They were trying to look rich, but their posture was stiff. When they saw me, their jaws dropped. Aurora, my mother whispered as I approached. You look expensive. I am, I said. I sat down. Where is Caleb? My dad asked, looking around. I thought your husband was coming. He's parking the car, I said. He'll be here. The waiter approached. It was the same waiter from last night. He looked at me, then at my parents. He didn't say a word about the declined card. He just smiled at me, a respectful, knowing smile. Good evening, Mrs. Vane, he said to me. The usual? Yes, James, thank you. My parents exchanged looks. The usual. Since when did the librarian have a usual at the most exclusive spot in the city? So, my dad started, clearing his throat. We appreciate this, Aurora. Really. We know we've had our differences, but family is important. We can work out a payment plan. Maybe $500 a month. I almost laughed. $500 a month on a $5 million debt. It would take 1,000 years to pay it off. Let's not talk about money yet, I said. Let's enjoy the view. It's a nice restaurant, Tiffany said, looking around, but the service is slow. Just then, the music changed. The ambient jazz faded out. A spotlight shifted slightly. Caleb walked in. He wasn't wearing his usual casual clothes. He was in a tuxedo. He looked like James Bond. He walked through the restaurant like he owned it. He walked straight to our table. Sorry I'm late, he said, kissing my cheek. He didn't look at my parents. Sit down, Caleb, my dad grumbled. We're discussing family matters. Actually, Caleb said, remaining standing. I'm here to deliver a message. What message? My mother asked. Caleb snapped his fingers. Suddenly, the manager of the restaurant appeared. He was carrying a silver tray. On the tray was a bottle of champagne, the $2,000 vintage, and a thick leather folder. The manager poured the champagne, but only for me and Caleb. What about us? Tiffany asked. This is for the owners, the manager said politely. My father froze. Owners, what are you talking about? The owner is a holding company. Yes, I said, taking a sip of the champagne, Vane and Associates. I slid the leather folder across the table. Open it, Dad. He opened it with trembling hands. Inside was the deed to the building. The entire skyscraper. The Zenith Lounge, the hotel above it, the offices below. You, my dad stammered, you own this place. We bought it 4 years ago, Caleb said. Aurora thought it was a good investment. She was right. You own the restaurant where we ate last night, my mother screeched. And you let them humiliate us. You let them decline the card. I told them to decline the card, I said. The realization hit them like a physical blow. You set us up, Tiffany whispered. I tested you, I said. And you failed. You ordered a $15,000 dinner because you thought I was paying. You treated the staff like dirt. You treated me like dirt, in my own house. This is cruel, my mother cried. People at nearby tables were starting to look. This is evil. No, I said. This is business. I reached into the folder and pulled out 3 envelopes. I told you I wouldn't call the police today, I said. And I keep my word, but I never said I wouldn't collect my debt. I tossed the envelopes onto the table. What are these? My dad asked. Eviction notices, I said. And asset seizure warrants. You can't, my mother screamed. She stood up. I live there, it's my home. It's my house, I said. I paid for every brick, I paid for the roof, I paid for the floor. And now I'm taking it back. Where will we go? Tiffany wailed. I have nowhere to go. I found you a place, I said. I'm not heartless. I pulled out a set of keys. They were plain, rusty keys. There's a 2-bedroom apartment on 4th Street, I said. It's a walk-up, no elevator, no doorman, it's prepaid for 3 months. After that, you're on your own. 4th Street, my dad spat. That's the slums. It's affordable, I said. You'll like it, it's near the bus stop. Tiffany's boyfriend, the influencer who had been quiet the whole time, suddenly stood up. Babe, he said to Tiffany. I think we're done. What? Tiffany grabbed his arm. Kyle, don't leave me. You're broke, Kyle said. And your sister is scary, I'm out. He walked away. Tiffany collapsed into her chair, sobbing. You ruined everything, she screamed at me. I fixed everything, I replied. I stood up. Caleb stood with me. You have 24 hours to vacate the properties, I said. The movers are coming tomorrow at 8 o'clock am. Take your clothes and your personal items. Leave the furniture, leave the electronics, leave the jewelry I bought you. Those are assets to cover the debt. I'm not leaving, my dad shouted. I'll barricade the door. Then I'll call the police, I said. And I'll hand them the forgery file. Your choice, Dad, the apartment on 4th Street or a cell in federal prison. He looked at me. He looked at the luxury around him. He looked at the daughter he had underestimated for 10 years. He slumped in his chair, defeated. We'll leave, he whispered. Good choice, I said. I took Caleb's arm. Come on, honey, let's go get a burger, I'm starving. We walked out of the restaurant. I didn't look back, I didn't need to. I knew exactly what they looked like. Small. The next 30 days were a blur of activity, but for the first time in my life, it wasn't stressful activity. It was cleansing. I didn't supervise the eviction myself. I sent Alina. I didn't want to see them crying. I didn't want to see my mother clutching her fur coats, which Alina confiscated because I had paid for them. Alina sent me updates. Day 1, house secured. Locks changed. They took the keys to the apartment. Day 2, Tiffany's car repossessed. She tried to hide it in a friend's garage. We found it. Day 5, Dad's truck returned to dealer. They moved into the apartment on 4th Street. I heard from a cousin that it was a disaster. My mother didn't know how to use a laundromat. My father couldn't watch his premium sports channels because they couldn't afford cable. Tiffany had to get a job as a hostess at a chain restaurant because her influencer career tanked after the scandal. Yes, there was a scandal. Tiffany tried to spin the story online. She posted a video crying about how her evil billionaire sister stole everything. But she forgot one thing. I had receipts. I didn't post them publicly. I just sent a cease and desist letter through Alina, attaching the proof of the forgery and the $5.2 million debt breakdown. I told her, one more post and I released the truth about Dad's crime. She deleted her account the next day. Silence. Now, 30 days later, I stood in the living room of my parents' old house. My house. It was empty. The furniture was gone, sold at auction. The walls were bare. It looked smaller than I remembered. When I was growing up, this house felt like a fortress. It felt like the place where the rules were made. The place where I was told I wasn't good enough, wasn't pretty enough, wasn't smart enough. Now it was just drywall and wood. You okay? Caleb asked, walking in behind me. I'm fine, I said. I'm better than fine. What are you going to do with it? He asked. Sell it? No, I said. I have a better idea. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. I'm going to donate it, I said. Donate the house. Yes. There's a charity that helps young women who age out of the foster care system. They need housing. They need a place to start their lives without debt, without fear. Caleb smiled. That's perfect. I want this house to be a place where girls are supported, I said, not a place where they are used. We walked through the empty rooms. I went into the kitchen. I stood in the spot where I used to eat my Thanksgiving dinner by the trash can. I didn't feel the shame anymore. I just felt pity for the people who had put me there. They were in a cramped apartment now, probably arguing over whose turn it was to wash the dishes. They were learning, for the first time in their lives, what money actually costs. I sold the cars. I sold the jewelry. I sold the furniture. The total came to about $400,000. It wasn't even close to the $5.2 million they owed, but it was something. I took that money and started a scholarship fund. The Aurora Vane Scholarship for Financial Independence. It was for students who had to support their families, for the kids who paid the bills, for the quiet ones who kept the lights on while their parents took the credit. I wanted them to know they weren't alone. As we locked the front door for the last time, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. The heater is broken. It's cold here. Please, Aurora. Just $200 for a repairman. I looked at the message. Old Aurora would have sent the money instantly. Old Aurora would have felt guilty that her mother was cold. New Aurora looked at the weather app. It was 65 degrees outside. They weren't freezing. They were just uncomfortable. I typed a reply. There is a hardware store 2 blocks from you. They sell space heaters for $25. You can walk there. I hit send. Then I blocked the number. It was the final severing of the cord. I wasn't their lifeline anymore. I was free. I sat in my office studio. The ring light was on. The camera was recording. I had never shared my story publicly. People knew me as Aurora Vane, the CEO. They saw the suits, the hotels, the success. They didn't know about the library. They didn't know about the trash can dinner. But after everything that happened, I realized I had to speak. I looked into the lens. I took a deep breath. Hi, I said. My name is Aurora. I paused. For a long time, I thought love was a transaction. I thought if I paid enough bills, if I solved enough problems, if I was quiet enough and helpful enough, my family would finally love me. I leaned forward. I spent $5 million trying to buy their approval. And you know what I got? I got a text message calling me cheap. I held up the printout of the bill from the Zenith Lounge. There are people out there right now who are doing the same thing. You are the responsible one. You are the one they call when the car breaks down. You are the one they call when the rent is due. They tell you that you're the strong one. They tell you family helps family. But ask yourself this, do they ever help you, or do they only call when they need a transaction? My voice remained steady, but I felt the emotion rising in my throat. Not sadness, power. I learned the hard way that you cannot buy love. You cannot pay a ransom for a relationship. If someone only loves you when your wallet is open, they don't love you, they love your utility. I cut them off. It was the hardest thing I ever did. They screamed, they cried, they threatened, they called me a monster. But I'm not a monster, I'm a person who finally decided that I matter. I took my life back, I took my money back. And I built a real family. A family chosen by love, not by blood. A family that brings me coffee in the morning without asking for a loan. A family that cheers for my success instead of being jealous of it. I smiled. A real, genuine smile. If you're watching this and you feel like the ATM of your family, stop, just stop. Close the bank, see who stays. The people who stay are your real family. The ones who leave. They were just customers. You are not unlovable, you are just in the wrong family. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. They will just watch you burn and complain that the fire isn't big enough. I looked at the monitor. The recording light blinked red. My name is Aurora Vane. I am not a victim. I am a survivor, and I am finally truly free. I reached out and pressed the button. Stop recording. The room went quiet. Caleb was standing in the doorway. He was clapping slowly. That was beautiful, he said. It was the truth, I said. What now? He asked. Now, I stood up and smoothed down my suit. Now we go to work. We have an empire to run. I walked out of the room, leaving the past on the cutting room floor. The heavy weight I had carried for 10 years was gone. I was light. I was strong. And for the first time in my life, I was keeping my own shine. If this story resonated with you, If you've ever felt used by the people who should protect you, hit that like button and subscribe. Tell me your story in the comments. I read every single one. Remember, your real family is the one you build. Stay strong.